Tell me that it is recording.
Yes.
Just because it tells it for me, it's not always replicated wider. Okay.
We're recording.
Right.
Sure.
How long is the presentation? We've got an hour altogether. Usually 35, 40 minutes for presenters, followed by a quarter of an hour, 20 minutes of answers, Q&A.
Yeah, we're going to aim probably for around about 35, 40 minutes. Yeah.
Ideal. Yeah.
So we do, when we practiced earlier, we do have a little bit of a waffling syndrome that we need to calm down on. But
yeah,
I think that can be for everyone. Yeah.
Really bad. But no, I think we'll be all right. We actually, Stu, maybe we need like a signal. Like I don't know, what shall I do if I think you're waffling? I might just do that.
This.
No, that's a little
Don't
bit.
do that. Don't do that.
Oh no, this.
Yeah.
That's the worst one of all, doing that.
Yeah.
We had 178 registered others this morning. There will be an attrition rate. We don't know how many they are, but that's probably the highest number for an FIR event we've ever had, haven't we?
Really?
It's a good number.
Yeah, very good.
Oh,
oh.
It's good news.
It's not just limited to those from Wales.
Mm.
It's available on the IC website, wherever they are.
I see.
You don't know where they're all from.
We will know. Normally we'd be able to find out, but we're just switching from an old manuscript database to a new one, which does not include where they are. But generally they'll be from Hong Kong, England, Scotland. Who knows?
Right.
Oh. And can you also? This I don't know if I want to know, but is there like you can tell when people have jumped off?
Yes. Well, you'll see them as well because you'll see the attendees.
Yeah.
Don't worry, I normally keep an eye on all of that. Don't worry. I think just focus on your presentation and stuff. And I do suggest taking like we agree, taking the questions right at the end, so you don't lose your flow, especially now that you know you've got X number of people. That maybe you were not anticipating. I think let's take any sort of uncertainties or pressures away from you guys. I will keep an eye on the chat. I will keep an eye on people's raising their hands. Just go through what you rehearsed. If, for example, you get cut off or your screen gets cut off, then I will interrupt you. But if we're not saying anything, just assume it's all going really well and just power on.
Sure.
Right, yeah.
Can I
just sent a reminder this morning to all the registrants? But
yes. Is this your first ever one? I'm just asking.
Of this content, yeah.
Oh, good luck.
Good luck.
Yeah.
I know.
You've got this.
Yeah.
As a
college
lecturer during lockdown.
Oh, well, good. Well, you've got this. You'll be fine.
I employed something called a Mexican wave to make sure my students were paying attention. I made them kind of put their hands up every 10 minutes during COVID lockdown, because they weren't listening on their phones and stuff like that. Oh, I don't miss those days.
No, but it changed our lives so much, didn't it? Apart from the terrible deaths around the world, but the way we work now is so different.
Yeah. I mean, maybe that's a good thing. That's perhaps one of the pluses. It's not or be in the office all the time.
Exactly. But if you're a young person joining, particularly as the institution, and trying to find out how to do your job, it must be very difficult to learn all the skills needed now via Teams or via Zoom.
Yeah, no, that's true. I definitely think there's a lot to be said for missing out on the old office banter.
Yes.
It can be quite useful.
Learning over the water cooler, they call it, don't they?
Yeah.
It's
true. Good old days.
So for those of us out here today, welcome to this IC Wales Cymru Fairness, Inclusion and Respect webinar. No more hesitation, hangovers, build calm, defensive confidence, due to start in about 5 minutes time. The event will be recorded and be available on the IC website within about 10 to 14 days. I'm sorry to stop your chat.
Oh, that's okay.
Right. So people have started joining then?
Yes, you can see them on now.
Okay. Great. Exciting.
Are we happy? We'll give them 2 minutes grace.
Yeah. I'm going to give people time to find the invite, click on the link and join.
Well, technically, it's only 12:57.
Exactly.
People will keep joining. Numbers for the first, I've noticed. That's been like with every event we've done. For the first 15 minutes, it keeps going up. And then the last 10 minutes, it goes down because people have to prep or join another meeting. So
yeah, sure.
Yeah,
we'll do this.
that makes sense.
Well,
But whatever you'll have a resource you can use. You'll have the recording. And you don't have to be an IC member to watch it or to attend.
Oh, that's good.
Yeah. So people can share it if they
Yes.
want outside the community. Good.
Which is why I had to ask the question, are you happy with the recording?
Yeah. Well, we need all the exposure, really.
Of course.
Our cause needs to be shared, especially after the weekend. We've got like 150,000 people in London, confronting each other about their views. So confrontation.
Oh, yes. And that was just the Manchester match, was it?
Oh, yeah.
Oh gosh, my computer's making that noise again. Hopefully that'll stop.
You can't hear it.
I
can't hear anything, so don't worry.
That's just off-putting for me.
Yeah.
I think it's time for a new Mac.
You definitely can't hear my cat snoring. He does tend to snore.
Can't hear my dog barking because my dog is home today and I'm in the office. Otherwise, she'd be sitting next to me barking.
I think we're all used to this now. We're everything moving online. We're all used to pets, children, technical difficulties. It's all part of the everyday life now.
Amazon deliveries, not just for yourself, but your neighbours.
Yes.
It's the problem of being at home. I won't be answering any though.
Yeah, this is one day.
And I specifically told my wife, don't order anything over the weekend. I might have to make this up. We've got one every Monday now to stop shopping so much online. That might be the way to go.
So for those attending, welcome to this IC Wales Cymru Fairness and Respect webinar. No more hesitation, hangovers. Build calm, decisive confidence. Due to start now, but I've spotted there are some people still logging on, so we'll give it 2 minutes grace. So please just stay with us, and in 2 minutes time, we'll be live with Stuart Kirby and Helen Morris. The event will be on the IC website in about 10 days to 2 weeks' time, so as we can get edited and up there and reformatted. And if you have a question, can I ask you politely, please, if you can hold your questions until after the presentation. And we'd like you, if you can, to raise your virtual hand. And then our chair for the day, who is with us, Tara Sarati, will invite you to turn on your microphone so you can pose your question to Stuart and or Helen. And then if you wish, you can turn on your camera, so we find that much more engaging. But because this event is recorded, totally understand if you don't wish to have your camera on, but our cameras will be on. But during the presentation itself, everybody's camera's off, please, apart from our two presenters, which is due to start now in about 30 seconds time. So, all ready to go? Stuart, thumbs up if you are.
Great. Thank you very much, Keith.
Helen?
Good afternoon.
Hang on, no, I'll do the introduction just a moment. I was just asking if you're ready.
Yep, sorry, yeah.
So we'll have a 10-second gap for sound, so our editor can find the start of the event. So I'll, in 10 seconds, introduce Tara. Hello and welcome to this IC Wales Cymru Fairness, Inclusion and Respect webinar. My name is Keith Jones. I'm the Regional Director for IC in Wales, and it's my pleasure and delight to introduce our chair for the day, Tara Sarati. Tara, over to you, please.
Thank you, Keith. Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to today's webinar. Just a little housekeeping before I do the introductions. Please keep your questions until the end of the presentation. I will then call your name if you raise your virtual hand. I will call your name. Should you wish to turn your camera on, it's up to you, but you can unmute and ask your question. If you're having any technical difficulties, you can leave your questions in the chat, but to keep the event a bit more engaging, I'd like for you to raise your hand and ask the questions. We have two amazing speakers with us today. We have Helen. Helen aims to redefine self-protection as a route to confidence, calm, and clarity. She empowers people, especially women, to build confidence and resilience through both physical self-defense and mindset tools like narrative rehearsals and habit stacking. Her mission is to help others create identity armor so they can stay true to themselves even under pressure. Joining Helen today, we have Stuart, and he has moved beyond overcomplicated and easily forgotten techniques. He's drawing on 40 plus years of martial arts and a deep passion for behavioral and neural science. The system blends pressure tested tactics with habit stacking to embed instinctive skills that last a lifetime. Stuart teaches people to recognize threats, communicate assertively, and act decisively under pressure. His work challenges outdated self-defense norms and equips everyday people to respond with clarity, confidence, and calm, even in chaos. We're very excited to have you both here with us today. So without any further ado, I pass the floor to you.
Thank you, Tara, and good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to your lunchtime webinar. Over the next 60 minutes, our goal is to create a fundamental shift in your belief system, one that could prove pivotal. God forbid you ever find yourself in a confrontational situation that escalates to violence. Tara's already introduced me, but I am the founder, or me and Helen are the founders of Mu-shin Self-defence. We founded our business in 2021 for two reasons. One, a very tragic reason, a high-profile murder of two young women. Back then, I'm sure many of you remember their names as Sarah Lena and Sarah Everard. It was a similar time to when we both became parents as well. And so we felt that, you know, part of our children's education and development should include an instinctive response to danger and violence. Now, having spent 4 years studying martial arts, 7 of those in Japan, I felt there was a need for a new approach that could offer a fast track option that not only created a shift in physical capabilities, but also developed tactical and mindset skills to give you the edge. Now, the name Mu-shin felt obvious to me because it's a Japanese term coined from the Japanese samurais, no mind. So it's always quite interesting when we introduce that concept to our students. They're like, oh, you're going to teach us to have no mind. That's very odd. But when you think about it, you know, the idea that not having to employ thought in a process of doing something is something that is key to reacting automatically and quickly. I'm sure you can all relate to that, catching a ball, riding a bike, driving a car. It's all automated. It's all a simplified instinctive motor skill now to you. So our plan today is for you to instinctively smell your armpits. Yes, you are hearing me right. I said yes, to instinctively smell your armpits. Very odd thing to say, but hopefully it gets your attention. And if you stay tuned at the end, you'll understand why this instinctive smelling of the armpit could actually save your life.
And you might want to use the slide along, the slide.
Oh, yeah.
The slide.
Sorry. Slides. Yeah, thank you for reminding me. I thought I could just get away with talking, not actually doing some actions. Yeah. Anyway, so why is it so vital to develop some kind of instinctive reaction to threat and even violence? I asked you now to consider this concept called the confrontational tipping point and how easy and even quickly we can go from disagreement, insult, threat, rage, and worse, even violence. Even consider how often you find yourself in these situations, these tipping points. Only this morning, actually, I had a minor confrontation with my 6-year-old daughter as we disagreed on what the priority of the morning was. Should she brush her teeth in time for school, or should she continue playing in her bedroom? Thankfully, it didn't escalate, especially now as she attends judo classes. So yeah, I don't like to get on the wrong side of her. But anyway, the 4 pictures that you now see will hopefully prompt your memory of an experience you may yourself have had. You know, in particular, I've had a few around the whole road rage situation. And so, you know, these are the areas in our lives that we can move through that tipping point from disagreement, insult, and rage. However, we are finding more now, in today's world, that sometimes violence can come without any warning, without any tipping point. In particular now, as we see a society where we try to manage more people in the community with mental health issues that sometimes have, extreme breakdowns, resulting in sometimes extreme levels of violence, much like the one last year, very close to me where I live in London, East London. A guy went crazy with a samurai sword, and sadly a young boy was murdered. So we have a little control over the random events in our life, but we do have some control over our own tipping points.
Yeah, and this is very true. Actually counting to 10 when someone's cut you up is a form of self-defense in itself, really. So I think we've all had an experience of feeling the brunt of someone else's tipping point. Us humans now, we're just all running hotter these days. Maybe it's the cost of living crisis, there's greater work pressures, you've got social media pulling at your emotions every 2 minutes, and obviously there's the so-called Amazon effect as well, that we've kind of all gotten used to getting what we want instantly. So our patience, in a sense, is eroded. So when something doesn't quite go to plan or arrive when we thought it would, this can cause issues. So, put all that together, and it's no wonder that many of us reach our tipping points or are at the receiving end of that tipping point more than before, because our fuses are just all becoming really, really short. And either way, if it's you or them who are reaching that tipping point and it turns into violence, let's face it, that most of us are unprepared. In fact, our experience of violence is usually confined to what we see on the TV, and Hollywood has done a fantastic job of creating all these glamorized versions of violence, and which basically means that when it happens in real life, we already have a very passive and observational approach to it. It might explain why those passengers on that New York metro train froze or merely studied their phones while a young woman was being brutally murdered next to them. So it's stuff like that. Yeah. But, nature gives us, if you want to move it along, Stu, nature gives us some great examples of responses to threat. Take the hedgehog, it's designed with its natural environment in mind. So it contracts special muscles to allow it to roll into a tight ball, protecting its vital organs with those spikes. So you've got that. And then you've got the rabbit as well. When threatened, it freezes because it knows that its predators are triggered by movement. And these are actually survival instincts. They might seem weak, but they're not weaknesses. They're designed to help them in their environment. But their environment has changed. So now freezing isn't a great survival mechanism. And in some ways, we're no different. Our environment is changing so drastically all the time. Now with threats to our well-being coming from all angles, virtually and physically, when you consider the online and the offline threats. So we've all experienced that moment of realization, should have done this, I should have said that in the moment, only to find that we're just stuck with that tormenting memory of it. And that's basically the hesitation hangover. For all types of confrontations we face today, it's clear that we need to update our systems. We need to train our awareness, make better assessments, and take action in the moment. And at Mu-shin, we like to say level up or savvy up. We've even published a book called Savvy Up, the Ultimate Upgrade for Outsmarting Scams, Manipulation, and Physical Threats. It's a great guide to just making the right decisions quickly, even under pressure. So, getting caught in the headlights doesn't have to lead to a scam, manipulation, or even like physical assault. It's just having that knowledge, a few tactics, and some core skills that can help you make that decision when it really counts. It's astonishing that Brits were scammed out of 1.17 billion last year. So it's clear that we need to level up or savvy up, however you want to call it. And our mission is to deliver what I like to call damn good advice, digestible, actionable, memorable tools that stick with us for life. Because we find it really odd that confrontation, like so many of us, don't prioritize personal safety despite the constant stories in the media. So training to overcome confrontation provides that confidence boost in all areas of life, which I believe tends to all the other growing issues like the lack of self-esteem, which has now led to a massive increase in ill mental health. So, yeah.
So yes, we're not looking to make this a doom and gloom lunchtime webinar, but instead we want to be able to leave this webinar making you feel empowered, that there are some tools and insights out there that can give you the almost immediate protection against confrontation and even violence. Okay, so what we're aiming to do over the next 30 minutes or so is to introduce you some key concepts in our system, in particular around this idea of overcoming our greatest hurdle, the mind. And naturally, this idea of assertive communication as a key way to de-escalate trouble. And then finally, we're going to look at an actual physical self-defense aspect, that's something that we consider to be unforgettable, that will hopefully make you untouchable. Okay, so let's start with one of the most important areas of self-defense, often overlooked, and that's our actual mindset. Now, I hope some of you guys on the call now remember this little character, maybe from your own childhood or even your children watching it now. But there was a particular episode where he had some self-doubt and, you know, he kind of needed to pull something up a hill, and it was all, I think I can, I think I can. Okay, so we're going to do a little thought experiment to see where you guys are in terms of facing violence in particular. So I just want you to imagine this scenario, and it's important. I'm going to do this twice, one with a slight change to it. The first scenario is this. It's a summer's evening. You're home completely alone on your own, sitting there on your sofa, flicking through Netflix, Amazon Prime, whatever you like to watch. It's summer, the window's open, and an intruder climbs through the window, and you meet each other's gaze in your living room. Now think, you know, to yourself personally about your own physical capabilities or feelings towards violence. What chance would you give yourself from 0 to 10? 0 obviously being no chance, and 10 being a great chance of, you know, defending yourself, putting that intruder down, calling the police, and getting that person arrested. So just think for a moment or two about what chance you would give yourself in this scenario. Because now I'm going to slightly change the scenario. This time you're home with your loved ones, maybe your dependents, maybe you have younger children, maybe you have a younger brother or sister, or an elderly person, a parent that you feel responsible, you're kind of the caregiver to. What chance would you give yourself now, given that the intruder is very more likely to attack that loved one? Now, often when we do this thought experiment in our workshops, we get an immediate change. People go from, you know, generally around 2 or 3, having no chance in this situation if they're alone, to suddenly talking in numbers of 6 or 7 when they know that a young person is involved, or something that they, you know, a child in particular. And Helen and I are both parents, so we feel that almost immediate surge of adrenaline, the very thought or prospect of someone trying to attack our children in particular. Okay, so this actually relates to a particular superpower, if you like. So this idea of going from I think I can to I know I can, when it comes to that. In fact, there's a name some of you may have heard of, or a definition. It's called hysterical strength, often known as the unknown superpower that all humans hold. In fact, there has been many cases across the globe where people have almost lifted a car, in this case pivoted a car off someone in danger. For example, there was a young lady.
This is about
in the US.
No more hesitation, building calm.
Sorry. Yeah. So hysterical strength has been registered in various media around. In particular, there was 2 ladies in Wales that lifted a car outside their house after it trapped in an accident, trapped a young boy underneath. So when you actually understand the science behind it, it turns out that physically our muscles, we only usually use around 60% of their potential. And this is a protection mechanism to make sure that we don't, you know, burn ourselves out or cause injury. Athletes, of course, have increased this to around 80%, but it's believed by scientists that in a moment of attack and fear, you know, there is a high probability that you can draw more energy from your muscles and therefore, you know, increase your physical capabilities. Now, how can we get this hysterical strength? Well, it's actually quite easy. All we need to do is just unwind your arm here and follow the vein up here and just press this twice, and you'll instantly, I'm only joking, wouldn't it be great if we could do that? Just be able to press a button and boom, we have an extra 20 or 30% power energy. But unfortunately, it's not as simple as that. But we believe at Mu-shin that it can be done just by knowing that this exists, like the placebo effect. When someone of authority tells you, oh, this pill here will solve this or do that, there's plenty of scientific evidence and studies to show that there is, a boost in well-being or whatever the drug claims to do. So just by knowing that we do have that reserve, I guess is the best way of looking at it, can actually help us draw upon that extra energy. God forbid we find ourselves in one of those situations. Now, there's many martial arts that like to pressure test train. Boxing really is all about that, putting someone in a ring for 12 rounds. Lots of other martial arts do various types of things to pressure test people. So we find that is obviously a useful way to push the boundaries of your physical capability, but it's not for everyone. That's why our self-defense system has less of that, because the people that come to us don't tend to want to put themselves through that kind of training. And also, as a self-defense organization, we are one of the only ones that provide physical training alongside visualization training. And there's loads of visualization experts out there that talk about how increases in performance are achieved through combining physical and visualization training. You don't have to take my word for it. There's some quite famous people out there like Dr. Michael Mosley and Professor Huberman that talk about this stuff all the time and help lots of athletes in particular reach a much higher potential in their capability.
Yeah, so obviously Stu's just explained the magic of hysterical strength, that surge of energy and power, a great feeling. But just as real and far more common is the opposite, which is what scientists call tonic immobilization. And that's that moment when our body and brain completely shut down. You might have felt it in, when you're having a dream and you try and scream out and nothing comes out. In real life, that can mean freezing when we most want and need to act. One study of almost 300 women who visited a sexual assault clinic found that 70% of them experienced tonic immobilization during an assault, and nearly half of them experienced it in its extreme form. But tonic immobilization is not just limited to danger and violence. It happens in the workplace. We see it too. Recently, the BBC just covered a young trainee lawyer who froze when a respected barrister groped her. I think the complete shock and disbelief paralyzed her, and she only found her voice much later after feeling the wrath of her hesitation hangover. So how do we prepare ourselves differently so that when we experience any kind of confrontation or threat, we react as we should and we need to? So the image here with the hashtag #MeNow is actually from a campaign that we're continuously running. And it challenges another well-known campaign you might have heard of, which is #MeToo. And this is where victims use that term to relate to each other's trauma. But the Mu-shin approach is to highlight that if you prepare today, you can empower tomorrow. As cheesy as that sounds, it's about avoiding or at least minimizing the Me Too effect. And whilst the Me Too campaign is great because it encouraged people to speak out, they only spoke out after a terrible event. And so what we're trying to do is get people to take action before something happens, which is why we've created our national campaign, Project Ready, which we'll touch on slightly later. But back to helping you with your calm, hesitation, things like that. I think it wouldn't be a proper presentation without a few P's, right? So let's just add in a few tools that you can apply today to help with the freeze effect, using your own confrontational scenarios. Practice without pressure. The pressure is the key here. So, we can't learn resilience in the middle of an actual fire. We need to rehearse calmly without pressure. And that's what fire drills are all about. You can do this using your own pretend scenarios from everyday confrontations at work to stranger danger situations. Secondly, respond with purpose. Whatever it is that you want to respond to, without that hesitation, think about responding to the challenge, not the menace. Focus on the goal, not the fear. Which brings us nicely to the third rule, perspective. Not every crisis is life or death. but all situations can be improved on by taking away the exaggerated effects that happen sometimes in your own mind, that recognition, that shift, that perhaps, you know, for example, telling yourself it's not personal can reduce confrontation. So keeping that neutral perspective can really help keep you in control. And the fact is, the person that performs well under pressure, it's not because they're fearless, it's because they've practiced fearlessly. You know, we all hold power, but with that as well comes vulnerability. So with practice, as I mentioned, fire drills, that's calm rehearsal, and as Stuart's mentioned, the power of visualization, we can actually replace freezing with a kind of flow effect. And that's the Mu-shin principle, really, which means no mind. I think Stuart mentioned that earlier. It's this instinctive readiness. If any of you have seen the film Taken with Liam Neeson, it's one of my favourite films. He's the absolute epitome of readiness. Of course, this is all scripted, and people say, well, you know, life isn't a rehearsal. But the thing is, it absolutely can and should include some rehearsal. You know, when you're about to deliver that really important presentation or sit in an exam, you prepare for it to get the best kind of outcome, right? So I think something as important as confrontation, a threat, and sort of any sort of violent threat are worth preparing for. Like, this isn't about wasting time being paranoid, because actually preparing for the worst can absolutely bring out your best. The ability to kind of de-escalate a situation, so a confrontation, the absolute first like line of defense, the best one, Stu, you want to move the slide along, is assertive communication. I think you missed one. Never mind. It was just all about the first line of defense. Verbal communication is always the best place to start for both practical and legal reasons. Most people don't want to engage in violence, and the law comes down really harshly on those that do. So we just all need this go-to method that we can instill into our minds, ready to make sure that in any given situation, you know, it won't turn physical. So yeah, just jumping on these images here. We haven't got too much time, so I won't go into body language too much, but that is a really important thing. I mean, just to give you a quick example, interviews were carried out with convicted sexual predators who revealed their selection process was highly related to body language. So, for example, if a woman held herself really confidently, this could be off-putting, almost a deterrent. But we'll stick with words and how we say them, and how this can really, you know, plant the most important seeds in an aggressor's mind to de-escalate a situation if they don't think the conversation is going to go their way. So looking at the top left, the lady in the car mindlessly opened her car door onto an oncoming cyclist. We've all been there. Silly mistake, obviously unintentional. We lead busy lives, so these kind of silly mistakes happen more and more now. And most people would take it as that it's just a mistake, apologise, move on with the day. But what if he's having a really bad day, or he's a little unhinged? So having a confident sort of back off statement will help. You know, she could say something like, look, I'm an off-duty police officer. Don't make me call this in. I've said I'm sorry. Let's both move on with our day. Because, you know, road rage incidents now are on the increase. So it's becoming definitely becoming a thing to prepare against. Moving on to the next image. This is another thing that's becoming far too common, with 80,000 phones stolen just in London last year. This is the only case where, you know, not the only case, one of the only cases where words aren't needed. In fact, it's just take it. The words take it. There's no point risking your life. An incident in Bishopsgate a couple of years ago resulted in a victim and a bystander being stabbed because they tried to fight for a phone. I mean, it's a mobile phone. I mean, that's just mindset madness. And that's what I guess we're here to do, is to set that straight. It's about being prepared. Just hand it over. At the end of this webinar, we'll give you a remote lock and wipe strategy. So within minutes, the thieves are locked out of your phone, and you'll be able to wipe all your data from your phone remotely. So you can just focus on your job, which is just to get home safely, maybe try and remember a few details about the thieves so you can help, you know, report them. But other than that, there's just no need to respond. No hesitation, hangovers needed here. So just moving on to the last image, you know, 1 in 5 doors now have door cams. So in our training, we actually, we train people to use these as 1-2 points. So here, along with some serious verbal assertion, this young woman is alerting him to the fact that, you know, they're being recorded. And she's saying something like, you know, keep back. I'm trained in karate. I'm not afraid to use it. So most aggressors, predators are chancers, you know, they want an easy target. So being confronted by someone who's clearly prepared would deter most. And, you know, if not, the Mu-shin training is all about the ABC mindset, always be climbing. So as she's delivering her back off bluff, she's ready to block and strike using the most robust parts of her body. We actually train the elbows because it's a lot easier, and she'll be able to do that until it's safe to run. So just knowing she has that physical backup makes those words all the more believable. And so what does this kind of preparedness feel like in a person? Well, I believe it can move someone from feeling vulnerable to fully capable. And this is the kind of confidence that, you know, transfers across many areas of life. There doesn't need to be a hesitation hangover if you've rehearsed for a confrontation. Remember the previous slide when I talked about the 3 Ps, practicing without pressure, responding with purpose, that verbal back off bluff. In practicing this, any kind of insult or challenge is going to be undoubtedly easier to manage. But you know, if words are not enough, you know, unlike Stuart, I've never really been interested in learning martial arts. I like quick results. So Mu-shin for me was the perfect shortcut for me to feeling that power, that capable feeling. And I now make a point to do like a 5-minute routine every morning in or with my usual workout. Even on days when I just can't manage a workout, I'll just do this 5-minute routine. And it's become what I call my rah ritual. I call it rah because as I'm doing the moves, I like to make a bit of noise as I'm exerting the power. And it kind of really sets me up for the day. It's just a great grounding routine. I feel like it's proper fitness with purpose, or as I like to call it, fitness you can defend on. But yeah, I think I'm proof that the lazy or busy person, depending on how you perceive me, can actually commit to making self-defense, self-protection instinctive. I honestly think that I could do 5 years worth of weekly lessons at a local martial arts club and not be as prepared as I am now. Why? Because I focus on just a few solid moves and a mindset that tells me I'm not giving up until I've blocked and striked my way to safety. And this system gets to the nitty-gritty really quickly and effectively. And of course, knowing that is a massive confidence boost. And I think the difference between a hesitant reaction and a non-hesitant reaction in any given situation.
So yes, unlike Helen, I did actually travel the longer path and have now spent almost 43 years studying martial arts. My eye-opener moment was training in Japan for 7 years and seeing how meticulous the Japanese are in achieving perfect technique. In karate, in particular, the Shotokan style, if you've ever heard of it, their philosophy revolves around a concept known as Iken Hisatsu, which roughly translates to mean kill with one blow. But this isn't what the philosophy is about. It's more about achieving a high level of perfection so that all it takes is one technique to get yourself out of trouble. It's almost an extreme version of Japanese efficiency. For me, it gave me a great insight into how body mechanics and also innovative drills can make a smallish person untouchable. The same in Aikido and Jiu-Jitsu, both Japanese martial arts as well. To watch these top instructors, or worse, to even feel their technical excellence being tested on you, was both frightening and also inspiring. And in a moment, I'll explain exactly what I took from these systems to create a simplified and instinctive response system that we can all use. But first, regardless of my training or anyone's training, we have to embrace our limitations. And one limitation is reaction speed. So a little pop quiz here. Just take a look at these images here. Which of these has the fastest reaction speed? Now, we often use milliseconds as a measure of reaction speed. And just to give you some context, a camera flash is about 1 millisecond. So if you want to think about these 3 animals here, what would you think would have the fastest reaction speed? Well, in fact, if you guessed B, the jellyfish should be correct. In fact, it can react at 11 milliseconds. And if you've got a cat like I have at home, I put it more into context because obviously we don't often see jellyfish unless you're swimming around and stuff. But you've seen your cat move, especially if it spots a mouse or something, that works out around 70 to 120 milliseconds. But the all-important one, of course, is ourselves. What is human reaction speed? Rather, unfortunately, we are a lot slower than our cats. We come in at around 250 milliseconds. Even trained martial artists hit the same neurological limits. So what does this mean for us? It means training our awareness and decision making is critical, because it's not about being faster than nature hardwired us to be. It's about being smarter with the time that we do have. And that's why it's critical that the first rule of self-defense is about having a backup, an instinctive backup plan, so that it can be possible that you can have a workable distance, meaning that the techniques you've learned in whatever self-defense, martial art, or combat sport you've been, diligently practicing for many years actually stands a chance. Now, I'm sure you're all familiar with the term sucker punch, or worse, Glasgow kiss, which is actually the headbutt, if you've never heard of that. Not to mention that being too close to someone means they have the opportunity to grab you, to slap you as well, or grab your hair in particular. So it's one of the reasons why most martial arts and boxing in particular work so hard on their footwork to make sure that distance is always maintained. It's probably the most crucial thing when it comes to defending yourself physically. But of course, that's not always possible. We can't always make that distance. But we do try, and we can keep that distance actually, not just by using our physical skills, but also our verbal communication, what Helen touched on earlier. In fact, there was only one good thing to come out of COVID, and that is that we can naturally stand back and say to people, okay, keep your distance, mate. I'm just getting over COVID. I don't want to pass on my germs to you. It shows that you're being considerate and caring, and you're able to maintain that distance. Helen mentioned some back off bluffs earlier, and you can elevate your assertiveness to really hold distance as well. But we know there's people out there that just talk closely, or they might have some kind of mental health issues. They stand too close. So we do need to be still aware of that. We can't just start striking people just because they stand too close. But we must get into an instinctive mindset of keeping that distance, especially late at night when we're alone, there's no one else around. So that would be the first rule of self-defense. What we also try to do to encourage, in particular, young people in our workshops when we go into schools, college and university, we try to shock them, and we tell them they smell. We say, yes, you smell. What do people do when they feel they smell? They kind of keep distance from people. So we're trying to create an instinctive mindset here. And it already links to something that's already prominent in our limbic system. For example, if I was to place let's say a bag of rotting fish under your nose, most people's instinctive reaction would be to recoil their head back away from the smell. And so we're trying to create a similar neural pathway in our students, so that as soon as someone steps too close, it might be harmless, but they immediately back up and create that space. And it's quite useful, because following on from this whole smell thing, we can then ask them in the workshops, so if you do think you smell, how do you check that you smell? And often you see people go, well, I kind of do this, and I grab one of them and I reposition. And that's why we talk about this whole smell the armpit scenario I mentioned at the beginning of the webinar, because as you can see now, I'm covering most of my face, and with my hand here, I've got good coverage of most of it while still having good vision forward. And so we want to make this a very instinctive reaction, because it's such a simplified motor skill, much like catching a ball. And hopefully, because now everyone's got some kind of paranoia about smelling, they're backing up, they're smelling their armpit, and that way we've built up at least some kind of defense system in terms of protecting their head, which of course is one of the areas that most aggressive people will try and attack. The other thing we like to do, of course, is to make the confidence in themselves believable, and to apply it to the science that is behind our system. You can see the David and Goliath reference there, that it's not all about being big and having brawn, it's about being smart and having intelligent reaction. In fact, we hope we can convince you all as well as share this knowledge and the skills that we're going to show you today with your loved ones. Especially as there is an ability in all of us to generate much power and speed, and it's linked to some of the concepts that they often teach at school, in particular the physics GCSE syllabus, which I'll show you now. So during my time in Japan, watching some of these top karate instructors in particular, they generated so much power, in particular with rotational force in their hips. And by using that rotational force in their hips, it naturally drew energy and compression into their rear leg. And when they fired forward, which is of course of kinetic energy, they were extremely fast and powerful. And that's where I thought, well, that's what everyone needs. And it's not as hard as you might think to teach that. Especially moving from this very simple position here, because already you've driven back, loaded some power there, you're protecting your head, and this is already ready and actively ready to drive into someone's face if you need to strike back. So it's more than possible to defend yourself with very little instruction, really, but we must have the confidence, we must have the belief system in place. And that's why I talked earlier about this shift in belief. So to bring it all together, or start to bring it all together, we know that the mindset is crucial, and that mindset links to possibly, you know, a hidden superpower known as hysterical strength. If we can switch from I think I can to I know I can, then we stand a better chance. And then, of course, the logistics of being in a confrontation. We know that our reaction speed is not fast enough, so we need to instinctively make distance. And this idea of connecting a neural pathway to an existing one, of recoil from a bad smell and being able to smell your armpit, very, very simple. You can create a protective shield around part of your face, which also can be driven down to get more attack in the lower part of the body as well. It's not a complete system, of course, but it's actually a start of other things that we can do with our elbows in particular. And then when you combine the three principles of power, rotational force, this compression, elastic potential energy, and of course the kinetic energy that, you know, we get in our vehicles, our cars and stuff like that. So the physics is definitely there. However, there are two other aspects that if we draw together can, you know, bring this engineering perfection to a point where hopefully we convince all of you that within you lies a warrior that, if pushed to extremes, is more than capable of defending yourself and your family. The first one, of course, the first secret weapon, of course, is the human physiology. Now, you know, untrained people tend to just strike out and punch towards the head, you know, in a fit of rage and anger. But of course, there are parts of the body that are much more effective in terms of preventing someone from attacking you. In fact, there's something called an Okinawan slap, which involves just the palm of your hand and striking round and hitting the necrotic sinus. And this has the effect of creating confusion in the brain, shutting down or reducing the oxygen flow to the brain, and the brain protects itself by then fainting. It has a fainting effect. So there are things that can be taught to anyone that could, you know, regardless of the aggressor's size or physical stature, you can have ways of, you know, dealing with those. And finally, and rather surprisingly, the second key aspect to this whole system coming together and creating a perfect engineered way of self-protection is this. We always like to bring this on our workshops because it shocks people, and they say to themselves, well, how can a toothbrush have any impact on whether I can defend myself? But of course, we're referring to something called habit stacking. And so the drills and so the techniques that we teach on our system, we also teach a very simple set of drills for people to practice, in particular at home. Now, the best way to embed a new skill into your muscle memory, of course, is repetition, repetition. And of course, most people forget, you know, oh, I meant to do that today, or I forgot to do that today. So we habit stack them. We link them to an existing habit, like brushing your teeth. So all you need to do is practice the drills 5 times before you brush your teeth, and then 5 times in the evening when you brush your teeth. And that way, over a 21-day period, and there's lots of varying theories about how long it takes to embed a new instinctive skill. But some of the research points to 21 days. So, and it's a nice number to remember, but at least it gets you practicing, drilling every day, twice a day. And actually that obviously is going to make the skill itself a lot more efficient and more powerful, as well as embed it to your muscle memory. So what we try to do as an organization is show people that it doesn't have to take a lot of effort or time to get some instinctive skills into your muscle memory, so that God forbid anything happens, you have something in your toolkit ready to go. And so we mentioned earlier that we're trying to promote a national campaign called Project Ready to give a set of skills to whoever we can in the country and across the globe that gives people a chance. So feel free to, use the link or scan the QR code. And what you'll find is our resources are all free, and they're about helping you deal with the phone situation, the remote wipe and remote lock situation, amongst other things. There's also stuff on situational awareness, if you're being followed, what to do, where to go, how to elevate situation in yourself. That's what we're talking about, ABC, always be climbing. And finally, there is the short habit stack video that we've created that is actually me in my bathroom just before I'm about to brush the teeth, doing the full technique, showing good rotational force, compression, kinetic energy, all within that small space, to show people that you don't need a gym, a dojo, or anywhere just to practice some go-to skills. Because we ultimately believe that there is a chain of confidence in all of us. And at the very bottom of that chain of confidence is physical confidence. If we can feel physically more confident about ourselves, then it is going to impact on our verbal confidence and also allow us then to stand taller. And if we are taller, then actually we're less likely to attract trouble in the first place, because Helen mentioned earlier about the body language situation. So apologies for my blasphemy with the Leaning Tower of Pisa, but there's a great new tool on Canva where you can grab the thing and you can just strain it up. But I just wanted to emphasize and hit home this idea of the chain of confidence. And the reason being is because most people won't take action when it comes to doing this type of training, because they believe it only happens to everyone else, not them. But there is also additional benefits to becoming physically confident, because it impacts on your verbal confidence and your general demeanor. So yes, I'd like to thank you all for listening, and we'd love to hear questions from anyone. If anyone has any, please go ahead.
Thank you both. That was very interesting and very informative. If anyone has got any questions, please raise your virtual hand and I will call out your name.
And I asked Stuart to stop sharing now so we go back to face-to-face mode, please.
What was that? Sorry, Keith?
Can you go back to face-to-face mode, please? Stop sharing.
Okay.
Thank you. Almost as if we're in the room together. That's it. Thank you.
There we go.
Thank you very much. Can I ask the question, please, Dara?
Of course, yeah.
Stuart, you mentioned the slap. Can you give me more information on that?
Oh, the Okinawan slap, yeah.
Yes,
so
yes, please.
A lot of self-defense systems talk about the palm heel as a useful weapon. It's useful because, obviously you don't need to worry about having long nails, and it's less conditioning compared to actually making a punch. But what I've noticed with self-defense systems is they're directing them to these harder parts of the face, where actually with the right motion, using the rotational force into the side of the neck here. And the thing is, we never teach one strike, because you can never guarantee that that's going to work the first time. And if you expect it to work and then you hesitate, then that's a huge problem in itself. So we do need to be able to rotationally keep striking the side of the neck. It is a situation, that you would use in dire circumstances, in particular for a woman being attacked, something really bad is going to happen. They don't have the strength in their fists or their wrists to strike in that way, or they can't quite get the elbow in, then you can actually cower and look vulnerable. And then as the person comes in, you're then striking very, very quickly into this area of the neck.
Thank you.
Interesting. Okay. Again, if you have any question, you'll need to raise your virtual hand. I can call out your name. If we don't have any questions, I think you have covered a lot and given people a lot to think about. This session is recorded and we will be sharing the link in a few weeks once it's up and running. But if there are no questions, I'm happy to bring the session to an end. Is there anything else, Helen, Stuart, you'd like to add?
I would like to give, as we're moving to the autumn months and the nights are drawing in, I would like to give a little tip for these traveling home later at night. Many of my students say to me that whenever they feel fearful, they take out their car keys and they place it into their hands. If they're feeling like walking back to the car, they're a bit worried. I always find that a little bit tricky because, once again, trying to land a punch is not as easy as you might think. So what I recommend is to carry a little hand torch. And the reason being is that if you were to be pursued and you know suddenly someone jumps out, if you had time, that is, and someone just suddenly came in front of you, they looked like they were going to do something, then shining the light in their face gives a moment of distraction, quite a big moment of distraction. And it really combines nicely with our system at elbows, because you'd have the light shining there and then you just drive in with your elbows and run. So yeah, just a little tip. In particular for you ladies there that walking home late at night to your car, have you know, you can't carry weapons in the UK or you know in a lot of countries, but what you can legally do is carry a torch and use that as a distractor. God forbid anything happens. But that's all I'd like to offer as an additional tip. Obviously our free Project Ready pack has a lot of extra stuff in there available for you to get, you know, instant skills on how to defend yourself if the worst happens.
Keith, I think you had your hand up first.
Yes, just to ask another question. Sorry, Stu, to monopolise the question, but you mentioned the slapping, which is a great idea, and now you talk about the elbows to effectively use. The last thing you do is try and punch this. What have you got available? Is it? How would you decide which to use?
Sorry, Keith, so what between the slap and the elbow?
Slap and the elbow, yes.
Well, I mean, elbows is a much more close contact. You know, they're much closer, and usually it's because they've attacked first, and you know, you've just made this position here. But as well as making this position here, you're loading on the back of your leg, and so you are ready. You know, you're not going to let someone just keep raining hits on you. So in this case, you're then driving your elbows.
Okay.
The Okinawan slap in particular is more where in Fortress Ready, we call this Fortress Ready. These are calming hands. You're trying to verbally calm the person, dissuade the person. There's CCTV there. There's a doorbell camera there. Leave me alone. It's being filmed. Back off, back off, back off. And they're not listening. So as they come in and they're within range, this slap here with the Okinawan slap using the palm is a longer range. So you haven't got to wait for them to get as close as you would do with the elbows. Now, of course, if you wanted to keep them further away, but it requires a lot more training, is to use your knees and your kicks. That's another way of keeping people at bay a little bit further out in terms of distancing. And then, of course, finally, once someone is actually upon you and they're grappling you, they've grabbed you, then it's important to have that skill set. And that's actually quite simple to do as well. I find that in martial arts and in some self-defense systems, we overcomplicate things. So someone trying to grab you from the rear is actually quite a simple thing. And it comes back to this whole smell thing. You know, we're trying to pull our nose away. We use this term, like you use this kind of sequence, squat back. So you basically drop into a squat. You hope that their force starts to go forward slightly, and then you reverse your force backwards using the back of your head to cause them some trauma, and then you turn into them and you strike them in the groin and hit them with your elbows. So it really, any technique, and this is the thing, in certain martial arts, it's all scenario. Okay, they grab this, then you do that, and then I do this, and it's great. But what we try to do is to train people not to ever expect what they expect. They need to be able to then, you know, change their tact immediately if that's not working. But yeah, in answer to your question, Keith, long answer, I apologize. Elbows closer, palm strikes further away, boxing strikes further away, even further away, kicks if you can. And then when they come close, you're trying to use throws and head strikes as well.
Okay.
And I just want to add as well, obviously a lot of this is kind of like seemingly about physical, but I hope that a few of our, slides did explain that the real strong connection that we believe there is between being physically able and how that translates to your everyday life and how you communicate with people, how you are, representing yourself on the whole. It's like being able to protect yourself physically obviously gives you that confidence and ultimately that calm feeling, because you don't feel as threatened because you kind of have you've got yourself. So therefore in any sort of confrontation you are more likely to be calm and responsive and more calculated in how you respond, whether that's a situation in the supermarket where someone's being insulting, or in the workplace, which I know that is a big issue, and that's possibly why lots of people came on this webinar today to learn those skills. It's almost like reverse engineering. I don't know if that's the right term, but like if you start off in the physical, being physically able, then actually that transfers inside and how you then project yourself. I don't know if you guys think that's true, but certainly that's of my mindset, and that's why I'm all about this identity armor and and promoting that identity armor for everyone, so that they're less likely to feel like a walkover, and they're able to speak up for themselves in the workplace or wherever else it may be.
Okay.
Absolutely, thank you. Jessica, you've got your hand up.
Just slightly off subject question. As a mum with young girls, do you suggest of a certain age that certain training should be taken? From what age would you say is, if they were to learn some type of martial arts or self-defense?
Well, I've just started my daughter. I mean, I originally, I think I was 8 years old when I started in judo, so I generally, for those sort of sports, that kind of martial arts sports, judo is particularly good, especially for girls, because it teaches initially how to break someone's balance, positioning to throw people. It teaches you how to fall as well, so that can be very useful for all kinds of things. If you've ever done skiing and snowboarding, being able to fall correctly is quite useful in those situations. But yeah, I think what tends to happen with youngsters is they join martial art around these ages 6 to 10, and they'll do it happily for a few years and get their belts, because the belt system is very motivational, especially for young people. But then as they get in their teens, they kind of fade off, or at least maybe over 60 or 70% fade off and don't return to it. But it's great if you can embed some skills. The younger the age, the better. When people always ask me what I recommend, and I always say, we'll start with judo, because it's a fun grappling. You're not getting struck in the face so much. You are getting thrown onto mats or crash mats, so it's less physically demanding, and it's learning a lot of skills like balance and being able to fall properly. But yeah, I know you see people advertising at 4 or 5 years old, but I don't necessarily think it's ever going to make them physically capable against an adult until they get into their teens and they practiced enough, especially judo. If you was to practice that for 4 or 5 years, from say 10 onwards, by the time for example, a 15-year-old girl, if she was to be grabbed, she would be very effective in that situation, at least flipping them and putting them on the floor, not necessarily in striking or being able to block, because that's not what judo covers. But I will say, ultimately, if getting children ready for some of the really bad physical violence stuff, things like boxing and kickboxing are, Muay Thai boxing are very, very effective, but they come with great risk in terms of the trauma to the head that will come with regular training. So you've got to find that happy medium. But yeah, I think any age is good.
system, Stuart, haven't we? We go into schools and we teach mostly from year 8 because they're kind of at that they're ready mentally to kind of chat about those things, which obviously are quite sensitive for anyone kind of under 12. But it's about teaching them those instinctive skills. I mean, I for one don't understand why our children, just today my son's doing 2 weeks of swimming at school, which I think is really important, but isn't it also important that they learn this skill of being able to kind of fend off anybody that kind of gets in their space and knows what to do if they are confronted with physical violence? I think that's what we want to change, isn't it, Stuart? We want to get into schools and make sure that all children have access to that training so that they can learn these just few core skills and just be able to you know, protect themselves if they need to.
And equally, adults can work, you know, because the thing about martial arts, it's a huge syllabus. You know, you want the grades and stuff like that. But what we're suggesting to people is you only need a few set moves, and that therefore you can even work them into your gym routine. You know, you go to your local gym, there might be a bag there. You don't necessarily need a bag, but you could make it a fitness thing as well. But our goal as an organisation is to at least give good people something in their locker, not just to rely on, you know, the hope that nothing ever happens. You know, depending on where you live in the world, the chances are nothing will happen, but it's still quite risky to not have anything prepared, you know, if something does happen.
Thank you both. I can't see any more hands or any other comments in the chat, so I'm happy to bring the event to a close. Thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you for the opportunity.
Time and delivering this. It was very informative. Thank you very much.
Great, thank you.